Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Red Marker webinar series. Today's presentation is on finance marketing and strategies for regulatory compliance. My name is Pete Prestipino. I am the Vice President of Integrated Strategy at Antenna, and I'm working with Red Marker today on a pretty full agenda. We're really tackling some high-level topics, but we're trying to make this as practical as possible as well. So we have some room for some questions, but really we're here to answer the big question: what is marketing compliance? What are the biggest challenges within every organization? What's the risk of not prioritizing compliance within the enterprise? We're going to show you some real practical examples and offer up some guidance about what we would look for in a compliance solution. And then we'll compare some vendors as well. If we could hit the next slide, I'd like to introduce Katie Daly, Global Sales Director of Red Marker. Katie, tell us a little bit about yourself and Red Marker and what we hope to accomplish in this presentation today.
Yeah, thank you, Pete. Well, I am the Global Director of Sales based right outside of New York City. I've been working with Red Marker since 2019 to help clients, primarily in the US, but all over the globe, really streamline their marketing compliance process. Red Marker has been in business for almost 9 years now, helping large regulated industries to define, repeat, and scale all things related to marketing, advertising, compliance, helping both marketing, legal, and compliance teams in the process. And thank you again for having me today, Pete, and for Antenna for hosting.
Absolutely. It's a topic of great interest to our clients, as well as just our own operations. When we started looking around for marketing compliance solutions, the first question was, what is it? What is marketing compliance? What exactly are we looking for? On our next slide, we're offering up a definition, particularly as it relates to this sector. Where I think it's really kind of germane to this sector. It's really the process. Compliance is the process to us of where marketing and legal teams kind of intersect, and how that works within an enterprise differs, and by sector it really differs as well. We deal a lot with brands, small brands, emerging startups, or kind of small cap and mid cap companies who care about brand greatly. What does marketing compliance, Katie Daly, mean to the typical enterprise within the financial services sector?
I think marketing compliance can mean a few things depending on how large this company is. For enterprise in particular, it's definitely the end-to-end flow of how content is created, who's reviewing it, how fast it goes out to the market, and what sort of rules and regulations are they adhering to in the process. At Red Marker, we define marketing and advertising compliance with the use of technology, really to help people scale, streamline, and offset a lot of the manual work that we've seen in this area for a very long time.
And it's a significant threat. Failure to comply is a really significant threat. You have a great example here. Walk us through this example and sort of the potential impact that it could have on a similar brand.
Oh, yeah. I think the $65 million in bold here should really be the most eye-opening to everybody. Robinhood Financial has a substantial fine that they must pay, and I don't think this is a one-off occurrence. I think that this is going to be the standard moving forward for companies who really are not adhering to the rules and regulations that they need to. A lot of companies in 2022 are starting to think about how they define compliance, how their advertisements are changing from hard copies, direct mailers, and brochures to all digital content, and the type of threats that really pose to a legal team who does not have the bandwidth or the expertise or skill to look across websites and third-party domains for all of these different areas where a lot of exposure might be let out to the company.
And it's certainly nuanced, as I think you suggest, in the marketing realm. It's not just sort of greater scrutiny on, from regulatory bodies, but also, from our consumers, from media. We really have to make sure that we're holding, we're consistent across the board, and coupled with content demand, right? As you said, these brands are growing. There's just a greater need for content and a greater need for personalized content at scale that's super difficult. What does it look like today? What are brands doing? What does effective brand protection look like today?
It's almost impossible for someone to be fully protected without some sort of technology. There is no way that 1, 2, 3 full-time employees can just sit on Google all day and scrape the internet for things like, misleading claims or incorrect disclosure and disclaimers, out of date content. You really do have to start getting to the root of the issue, which is moving away from manual and digitizing everything that you do with the help of smart, easy to use technology. And I'm sure it's exactly what you've been seeing in the marketplace for quite some time now.
These are all issues. Every one of these that we have listed here are issues that we encounter on a daily basis. And I think that that's really one of the primary drivers. Each of these is a primary driver of our interest in compliance solutions. A lot of the time, the work that we do is manual. We're making changes. We're working, directly with the client. A lot of times the materials that they have are very out of date and no longer offered, or those type of things. And then when we're trying to market a product, to do it at scale, we need a lot of content, to do it across multiple channels, and to ensure compliance can be really challenging. And it gets worse when we have to train other people about the best practices here as well. So for us, these are all on point. These are all things that are really, that I think agencies like ours all face on a daily basis.
And one that I'll point out from, a lot of my clients' point of view is really that misaligned marketing and legal staffing. We encounter scenarios where marketing has bigger and bigger budgets every single year. They can increase their headcount. They can produce way more content, and legal just does not grow at the same rate. So when you add in the amount of people creating content plus the volume that naturally leads to, in addition to the amount of digitalization, changing laws, legal is really at a bottleneck in the process where they almost feel overwhelmed by the amount of things they need to search for every single day. You simply cannot do it by throwing more bodies at the problem. The solution lies by getting an easy-to-use software implemented and fully customized to your organization.
Tell us give us an example. I think sometimes the best way to explain these things is through an actual example. What is the return that we might be able to, a typical company might be able to receive by utilizing a compliance solution like this?
Yeah, so let's start with the problem, and then we'll go into the solution. So as one of our best use cases, a very large financial institution in Australia was producing about 20,000 pieces of marketing content a year. Their review time, it's about an hour, a full-time fee earner with a 4-day turnaround window. So right at the start, we know that there's a lot of room here for improvement, whether it's on that hour review time or the 4-day turnaround. So step one is to just look at the inefficiencies in the legal review process. And a lot of times that can come down to a first line review. And what I mean by that is giving the content creators and those editors, the copywriters, the ability to look for compliance issues at the start of the content production. It should not have to go across a legal attorney's desk to look for things like disclaimers, disclosures, correct dates, even grammar and spelling. Attorneys did not go to school to be, your editor, your copywriter. So it's a really easy way to level up the process. So that's really what step 2 is here on the slide, making sure that the review teams ensure compliance accuracy by training the employees about what it means to be compliant. How do we define compliance as an organization on that level? And then more importantly, on the brand level, are there certain legal issues that we should be aware of every single time that we're producing pieces of content? So what we did, step 3, once they have that pathway defined about where in the process something like red marker is going to be used, we can then expand the scope and add new rules. Think of rules as that legal checklist someone is manually going through, right? Looking for those high-risk words and terms, the brand playbook that everyone has to create font colors and logos and the way you define it internally. And simply by standardizing that process, you're creating that repeatable, profitable, and reliable scale. So in particular, this financial institution saved almost $1 million, $950,000 within just legal expert advice alone. They reduced that turnaround time to a single day. So I know for you, Pete, how happy that would be. If your team can get things out to the market in one day instead of 4, you are hitting the clients while they're hot. You're staying top of mind at all times. And the reviews are 50% faster. So I know that legal team is happy too, not doing all of this manual labor by themselves.
You hit the nail on the head when you said, kind of get more done in less time, right? But it's also for us, I think that those efficiency gains are really important, but the accuracy, I think, is of equal importance, particularly in this sector where we can't afford to make mistakes. So, as we can make ourselves really efficient, but if we're wrong, it doesn't really matter, right? So we have to be both. We have to be really accurate and hold true to that that standard, and ensure compliance, and do it fast. And it's tools like these that I think that's why they're of such interest. Let's I also wanted to talk a little bit about what we're looking for in a feature, as it relates to features for compliance tools and really automated compliance tools specifically. As you might imagine, there's a range of them, and Katie and I can talk about these at some length, of course. But for me, the most important, some of the most important, are really the ability for this to be customized in some level. And Katie, I'll ask you, what does that look like, in a practical sense? What level of customization should we be asking for from our compliance tools?
I would dare to say almost the entire thing should be customized when it comes to things like regulatory issues and brand compliance. 2 companies that work in the same exact sector, have almost the same exact number of employees and legal reviewers, do not define compliance in the same exact way, even though they're both looking at the same statutes and legal book, right? So you need to really step away from out-of-the-box solutions that give you off-the-shelf rules and regulations and say, here's everything you need to look at for FINRA. Here's everything that the FCA needs to look at. Here's what the SEC likes. And go one step further in the process and say, what are our custom disclaimers and disclosures? What are the product tones and semantics that we use when we're describing our different services? What does our brand guideline look like? Do we have a playbook that we want to create rules for? And by having those deeper conversations, you're no longer limited to just one step in the process or one factor in marketing compliance. You're really covering all of the bases to ensure the content creators and the legal reviewers are happy while they're using the technology.
We're certainly producing way more content than we ever have at scale, and it's often in a digital format. And one of the great, kind of features one of the features that we really need is the ability to scan websites and scan large quantities of web pages. Tell us a little bit about why that's important in today's sort of marketing and legal review sort of compliance process. Why is it important that we have a tool like that?
It is virtually impossible for a full-time employee to sit on Google all day and look for all of the risks in the marketplace that people are putting out there on behalf of your company. I think we're all, kind of tired of talking about COVID and how we switched to an all digital age. But marketing companies also shifted in the past 2 years, where you're no longer sending out a lot of manual letters. You're no longer having in-person meetings or events. Everything that we do is online and public at all times. And that is a massive amount of exposure to a regulated company. You no longer have to worry just about what your marketing team is producing, but what about all of your financial advisors? What are they saying? What about employees that are posting? There's so many different areas of regulatory scrutiny that people have to be aware of. The only way to look for it and ensure online compliance is by using technology. We have a client that uses us every month to scrape their websites, and the amount of content that we can find, across 36,000 individual pages equates to something crazy like 16,000 hours of work per fee earner, and we can give you a report in 2 weeks. So it's a very big problem to solve in this year.
Absolutely. Another thing that we really like as well is that the image and branding recognition. It is appealing as an integrated agency that has a kind of a vibrant design and development team, and a great marketing team as well, to be able to ensure that we are using the right images in the right locations at the right times across a range of channels. So the ability to utilize compliance solutions like that is a really powerful kind of feature, always to look out for, we found. And as well as the coverage on a range of media types, it's certainly one of the things that I think where Red Marker stands out. Tell me a little bit about what that means. What is a range of media types, Katie? What can we conceivably utilize Red Marker to analyze?
Yeah, so you no longer want a solution that only solves one piece of the puzzle. So you don't want a solution that only does website scanning. You don't want a solution that only does email scanning or PowerPoint scanning. You need something that covers every single piece of content that's going out to the marketplace, which includes audio and video projects, which are obviously getting way more popular in 2022. I have a client that I'm working with. They were only creating, 500 videos a year in 2018. And this year, going into next year, they're going to produce 19,000 videos across all of their financial advisors. So you really need to make sure that the risks you're looking for are not just for one sector. Find a solution that will help you identify communication errors, potential regulatory risks, on all types of advertisements, all types of communications.
I'm looking at this list and I'm thinking it's not suggested, it's almost mandatory. These things we absolutely have to have. When we did our own evaluation of sort of the, what's available on the market today as it relates to marketing compliance products, we didn't see anything that would really fit the bill across the board. Some are really focused in on supporting companies that do a lot of advertising. Others are focused very much on the web scanning side specifically. Mm-hmm. None really that offered up the level of customization that I think Red Marker does. Is this how Red Marker sort of stands out in this market, Katie Daly? Is that it is customizable? Is that it can do all these things?
You're absolutely right. The customization and the comprehensiveness of the solution is what makes us very unique and why we do have a patent in this technology space. Each company is very different in their journey. We certainly have best practices and, like you said, these almost mandatory things that we're suggesting all of our clients have. But a lot of people are in different stages of their marketing compliance journey, and you want to partner with a vendor that allows you to customize your steps depending on where your day one is, depending on how you define compliance and really where your bottleneck in the process is. And I think that's what makes Red Marker such a comprehensive solution.
And easy, we would hope, to get started with a compliance solution. What do you think our next step should be here if we're interested in compliance, if we see the benefit?
Yeah, if you're in the beginning journey of your marketing compliance stage and you're just starting to dabble about what it means to be compliant, schedule a demonstration. If you're more senior and you have established workflows and now you're just looking for something to integrate and plug and play and get that automated first line review set up, schedule a demonstration. We can walk through the platform in as little as 20 minutes with someone to show them how it works. But it's really the magic in the conversation around that demo that starts to happen, where we can give you real-time feedback directly on your marketing content, the processes that you have, and start chatting about those customization elements, about how you define compliance.
Excellent. Thank you, Katie. We've also put together a few resources that we thought might be really helpful in understanding compliance and really kind of what this looks like for marketers and those in the marketing legal sort of relationship, as well as what this means to those in the advertising sector. And I think a really great, kind of one-page guide on how, and this is an automated solution, and how compliance is really about legal and marketing teams working together. And when you approach it with technology that can automate that and improve that relationship and productivity and efficiency and at scale, it's really appealing. So I encourage you to download that as well. You can access those through your QR code. One last thing, there are some links to, Katie, what did we need to tell everybody? I almost forgot. Oh, yes, Q&A. If you have some questions about our brief presentation here today, please email the RedMarker team. They're a great resource just in understanding what compliance is and how you might be able to work with them more closely at your own enterprise. And finally, if you have any questions about this as it relates to this presentation, we're going to hang on here and let Katie answer some questions. So utilize the chat feature and ask some questions. We can talk regulatory compliance, we can talk FINRA, SEC, FDA, and the like, and what it might mean for your company as well. Thanks, everyone, and have a great afternoon. We'll continue with the FAQ section now.
Thank you for having me, Pete. This is a great webinar, and I appreciate Antenna hosting this. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.